Hello, it's been a long time since I uploaded a video to YouTube, so I thought now was as good a time as any. I recently picked up this Kenwood KR-3010 entry-level, late 70s Japanese receiver, and I thought I'd show it off here. I saw this thing sitting out on Facebook Marketplace, and it, for some reason, was calling to me. I assume it's this giant volume knob in the middle, but we needed to get a receiver to sit upstairs in the secondary TV room, and I didn't really have anything that I wanted to put in there. This one looked nice and simple, and it will do exactly what we need to do up there because I'm just going to hook it to a set of large Advent speakers that are sitting up there right now. But anyway, get a quick overview of this thing. The 3010 apparently was a very bare bones setup. We have the power knob with a selector for headphones, 2 sets of speakers. It's got simple bass and treble tone controls, a balance knob. It has loudness. I don't really prefer the sound profile of this loudness because it doesn't really amplify the treble at all. It seems to just add a bunch of mid bass. So that's turned off, but it's not really needed because this receiver sounds fairly powerful and fairly clean, so no loudness needed. We've got 2 different buttons that turn on 2 different line level sources, which were tape decks basically back in the day. So currently got it hooked up to a Bluetooth dongle, which is playing some Amazon Music as I record this. It's kind of cool to see my phone can do both now. And then finally it has this knob for AM and FM, and then your phono. It's got a phono preamp built in. But otherwise, run-of-the-mill Japanese receiver from the late 70s. And let's see, go around the back here, nice and simple as well. It's got the speaker jacks, and then all of our RCA jacks, as well as the antenna screw terminals, as well as the ground post. Looks like it has provisions for an unswitched and switched power jack. Pretty par for the course with this stuff. The case itself is made out of solid wood. It's held on with 4 screws, but it's all one piece, and it's covered in some, like, I'd call it medium quality veneer. I do like that the lights from along the inside the top here illuminate the guts of the receiver. One of my favorite things as a kid was to sit there and look inside the receiver itself to see all the components. You can see the variable capacitor chilling out back there, but this vertical board right here is the phono preamp board. I've got some capacitors still on the way here. 2 of them are those filter caps for the power supply. But yeah. So I actually made another video the night that I recapped it, which I'll include here now. And then I want to do a sound test between the much more expensive tube amp and this. I think this sounds at least 90% as good as that, so I'm considering this a win. I have replaced all of the capacitors inside of this Kenwood receiver that I can tonight because there's a couple I don't have on hand. These things are like 50 volts at 6,800 microfarad. So I'll need to order those. Those are just the filter caps for the transformer for the power supply. Not super concerned with those. These 2 back here in the corner are non-polarized 1 microfarad caps, and I don't have those non-polarized capacitors on hand, so I'll order those. There's a couple of hi-fi audio caps that were in the, this is the phono preamp board that sticks up vertically. I did replace them, but I'd like to get some actual hi-fi audio caps. And there's a couple somewhere else. They were up here. I marked them down. I think right there and right there that were hi-fi audio caps that I'd like to replace as well. But otherwise, this thing's probably looking as close to new as it did back in 1978. Picked this up because these have favorable specifications, just to use as a backup stereo system in the TV room upstairs. But took all the dust off of the circuit board and got it looking good. Most importantly, it doesn't smell like burning electronics anymore. I don't know. I don't think that there was anything bad happening before, but all these capacitors are, 43 or so years old at this point. So these orange ones are the hi-fi ones I was talking about. But we will try to get this thing hooked up to the stereo and see if the sound is improved. When I first hooked it up, the loudness button worked, but it was almost like too much. It didn't make any sense to me. And balance, you had to run the balance like over here to have it actually feel like it was centered. So I'm hoping that took care of itself as well. I did clean all the potentiometers with fader lube, and then I cleaned all the knobs with flits. So they're looking as new as they're gonna look. Nice and clean. And so yeah, I'll get this hooked up and maybe show it off once the case is back on. Back of the case is right here. It's just like a medium quality veneer. Pretty simple setup. This is a nice simple receiver. It's nothing special. I think it's 27 watts per channel. I saw somebody online hook it up to an oscilloscope and run a signal through it. It looks like they put out about 30 watts per channel cleanly into 8 ohms. So plenty of power to power any speakers that I have. I had it hooked up to my Cornwalls last night and literally had the volume down here like at the 7 o'clock position, and it was plenty loud, and it goes all the way over to there, obviously. Kind of an interesting design with the big volume knob right in the middle, and it's got steps, little click indentations. It's the first Kenwood receiver I've ever owned, and I'm pretty impressed with the simplicity, especially given the specs. If you look at the THD and sensitivity and all that good stuff, it's got favorable specs over top of similar Pioneer or Marantz type stuff. It's funny, I'm moving my finger across the aluminum face, and since I'm standing on my concrete floor in socks, I can feel that. It's a little bit of a hum, because things are not nearly as safe in the past as they are nowadays. Anyway, I have rambled on, but I do like that it has the original light bulbs, and all the stuff lights up, including the stereo light. Let's see if I can find a station. There you go. That little red LED lights up for stereo. And the meter, you can see it kind of moving when I tune closer to a station. So yeah, I think it'll be a good rig for a secondary setup. All right, we're back. I've got all new capacitors in the receiver. I put in an elevated value for each one that I had, so if it was like 16 volts at 100 microfarad, I went with at least a 25 volt at 100 microfarad, just to be safe, since I was using Chinese capacitors. I was actually able to get in behind here on the dial and clean all the dust off the back side of the plastic window here. It's got the original lights, which look great. Just a great looking receiver from the late 70s. It's 27 watts per channel, and I'll play some music here and you can hear how loud it is. This is where I have the volume set right now. Basically at the 9 o'clock mark. And we'll give that a go and you'll hear it here on the Cornwalls. Alright, here's a sound clip that I'll play on both the receiver and my tube amp so you can hear the difference, maybe. We'll see. Now, I've got the tube amp hooked up. We're going to listen to the same sound, hear the sound difference between the receiver and the tube amp. But I like the way this thing looks. It's very simple. Some of the receivers that were more expensive in the day and had, you know, better filtering for the FM receiver and more power also ended up having more knobs and more controls that I just don't care for, especially when this thing's just getting general duty use in our second TV room. Otherwise, the only downside is it doesn't have a protection relay when you turn it on. Not really a problem. It goes to headphones before it goes to speakers. So that's what it looks like with the power off. You can flip it on and then wait for a second, turn it over to your speakers. But just thought it was a good looking receiver. The veneer polished up nice. Another thing I really like about this receiver is whatever toxic chemicals they put into the components, it gives off that very vintage electronic smell that brings up a lot of nostalgia. People don't really understand that part of these goofy hobbies involves other senses rather than just your hearing and your vision. So, tactile touch on high quality aluminum knobs. It has the counterweight behind the faceplate here, so this thing feels high quality. But no, the smell. Something about warm electronic parts from the 70s just scratches that itch for me. I don't know what it is, but I do know what it is. It's probably my future cancer diagnosis, but anyway.